Hello everyone. In this tutorial, I would like to show you two different ways on how to find the range of this particular function, f of x equal to x divided by 1 plus x squared. So if you are in SS1, 2, or 3, pay close attention. All right. One thing I would like to remind you in our first method is the domain of this function, which is the original function, is the same thing as the range of its inverse function. Yes. And the domain of its inverse function is the same thing as the range of the original function which we are looking for. So instead, why not, we should go ahead and find the inverse of this function, proceed and find its domain. That domain will be the same thing as the range of this particular function which we are looking for. Step number one in changing this one to its inverse is what? Change f of x to y. Then we still have x divided by 1 plus x squared. Next, switch x and y. So you have, what do we call it? Here you have x, and this x becomes y. We have 1 plus y squared. Now let us cross multiply. X times 1 is x. X times y squared will give us what? X y squared. And yeah, then equal to y. Let's bring all terms to the left hand side, starting with this one. Remember, we are trying to make y the subject. So we have x y squared. As this crosses over, it becomes negative y, then plus x, everything equal to 0. This is a quadratic equation in terms of y. We use general formula y equal to minus b. B is the coefficient. Oh, this is y. Sorry, because if it crosses over, it becomes negative y. The coefficient of this is already negative 1. We have another negative. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. What is b squared? Negative 1 squared. Minus 4 times a. What is a? A is x. Times c. C is another x. Divide by what? 2a. 2 times x is 2x. Let's simplify. Minus minus is plus. So we have plus 1. Plus or minus. This is 1 squared is 1. Inside the square root, we have 1. Minus 4x squared. Minus 4x squared divided by 2a. That is 2x. All right, so this is the inverse function of this. So how can you find the domain of this? Remember, the bottom can never be equal to 0, so this 2x can never be 0, and therefore x cannot be 0. We are done with this. Then we have a square root. The content, the radicand, that is 1 minus 4x squared, must forever be greater or equal to 0. That is what you should know. But it cannot be, okay, let's just finish. We can factorize this as 1 plus 2x multiplied by 1 minus 2x greater or equal to 0. Why? Because remember, 4 is the same thing as 2 squared. And 2 squared x squared is the same thing as 2x all squared. Let me do it here for you. 1 minus 2 squared x squared. So you can merge them with a power of 2. And this is difference of 2 squares. You take 1 plus this times 1 minus this. That is what we have here. And if you consider them to be 0, or you can even sketch the graph, since the leading coefficient is negative, the graph is going to be down like this. And it is going to cross x-axis at negative 1 over 2, negative 1 over 2. If you solve this one, set them to be equal to 0, and this one will be positive 1 over 2. And we're talking about greater, everything to the top. So you can see the interval is from negative 1 over 2 to positive 1 over 2. And hence, x belongs to the set of values from negative 1 over 2 down to positive 1 over 2. Remember, this is a domain for what? The inverse function. And I told you that the domain for the inverse function is the same thing as the range of the particular original function. So we can conclude that the range therefore the range is what? From -1/2 down to 1/2. Yes, this is the range. Now, let me show you another method. Another method is by use of calculus. We can use differential calculus to determine the range. And we have to find the values of x that determine the maximum and the minimum value of this function. So if you take f prime of x, you differentiate it. Bottom, which is 1 plus x squared, times the derivative of the top. Derivative of x is 1 times 1 minus top, which is x, times the derivative of the bottom. The derivative of the bottom will be, derivative of this is 0, derivative of this is 2x. Divide by the bottom squared, that is 1 plus x squared all squared. Let's simplify. This time this will give us 2x squared. So we have 1 plus x squared minus 2x squared to the top. Divide by 1 plus x squared all squared. And by setting this to be equal to 0, that will give us the possible values of x. And remember, bottom can never be equal to 0. Therefore, the top has to be 0. So let's continue here. So this is 1 minus x squared, because x squared minus 2x squared is minus x squared. So 1 minus x squared will have to be equal to 0 because the bottom cannot be 0. So if you solve this, it implies x squared is equal to 1. Therefore, x is equal to plus or minus 1. These are the values of, what do we call it? X at the maximum and the minimum points of this function. And we are looking for the interval from the maximum to the minimum. That is the range. All right, let's take 1. Plug 1 here. You have, that is f of 1, will be 1 divided by 1 plus 1 squared. 1 squared is 1, plus 1 is 2, so we have 1/2. Then if you plug in -1, you have -1 divided by 1 plus -1 also squared. -1 squared is 1, plus 1 is 2, so we have -1/2. So you can see this is the range from -1/2 to +1/2, which is right here. So in either case, the range of this particular function is from -1/2 down to +1/2.